Boys, we're going to go over um, drawing a grid in order to make your lettering really neat and regular. And even though we're going to do some emotive lettering in this lettering for our mind map, the first step I want you all to follow is to draw a grid out properly so that your lettering is done the appropriate way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a straight line across the page. And making sure that our line is straight by just checking with at the side of the page that our ruler is at a right angle. That our ruler is at a right angle. And what we will do then is I'm going to write out the words that I'm going to be. So the word I'm doing is the connections one. So I've already worked out how big I want this to be, and I'm going to explain to you, give you some ideas of what sizes you can use as well that will fit well on your page. I'm looking at all my letters, and there's only one letter here that is slightly different. So all of my letters are the same height and width, except for the I. That's going to be is going to be narrower. So that's the one letter that we need to keep an eye on. So I'm going to start off just by, I think with this, it's a good idea to do your bottom and your top line out first. Okay, so if you've done your bottom line, and I've decided that my letters are going to be 5 centimeters high, 3 centimeters wide, and I'm going to have a ½ centimeter in between each letter. So the first thing I will do is I will line my 5 up here. Now guys, I don't know if I can, it is really important that you put your head right over that number. You're looking straight down on top of that, so that line from top, if you from the side, from the other, you're going to get a wrong measurement. So it's really important when you're measuring that you go exactly from the top. And also the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just measure this here. Again, I'm going to use the width, the right angle of my ruler to make sure this line is straight. Okay, so that means that this line is straight, it's parallel with this, and this line here is straight because it's at a right angle with the perpendicular line. Okay, so 3 centimeters, I'll mark it at the bottom. Now, to be absolutely 100% sure, what you can do is mark at the bottom and the top. It'll only take you an extra second to do that, but then that means that your line is always going to be dead straight. And I kind of think it's worth it, lads, even though I might have drawn that a little bit crooked there. And then I'm going to mark my ½ centimeter on the top and my ½ centimeter on the bottom. And join it together like that. And as I do my letters, what I like to do is I like to write the letter that's supposed to be at the top, because number one, I do have one letter that's smaller that I need to mark in. Number two, I don't want to do too many letters either, and to keep track of it. So going 3 at the bottom there and 3 at the top there. And then join the two together. So lads, I've just gone ahead and done some more of those, and I've stopped at the T because I want to show you. Now, each time I draw my box, I mark my letter at the top and then I measure the next one. I think that's the best thing to do so that you don't get confused. When I'm going to now just mark off my ½ centimeter gap between my letters, And now I'm coming to my eye. So each one of my letters has been 3 centimeters in width. And for my eye, I'm going to make it 2 centimeters as the eye is a little bit smaller. Okay, so I've marked my gap. Now also, boys, what you can do, I find it easier to draw a straight line if I'm hold my ruler with my left hand because I'm right-handed, and if I draw from left to right. Okay, so I will move my sheet over and back a little bit when I'm doing things just to make it easier. It's all about just making it easy on yourself, spending the extra couple of seconds measuring so that you make sure that it's straight. And there I actually accidentally did 3 there by accident. So it's important you measure your 2 centimeters after the eye. Really easy to make a mistake on this, okay? Now, again, if you make your eye 3 centimeters like the rest, it's not the end of the word, but it just looks a little bit better if the eye is a little bit smaller. There's other letters that are bigger and wider. So for example, an M and a W are wider than the rest of our letters. So the M is usually about 1.5 centimeters, 1.5 times the size of your regular width. And the W is about twice the width, which does seem to be a big difference. Okay, lads, so that's what it ends up looking like at the end. And I've just marked out my 3 centimeters and my 0.5 centimeter in between each one, just so you can see that. Just one last thing then that I would do is I'm just going to draw another line straight through the middle of this box. So I'm just going to divide 2.5 centimeters. I'm just going to divide this 5 centimeter line in half. So I have 2.5 and 2.5 here. And this is going to be our tram line that we're going to use a little bit. Now, lads, I'm probably going a little bit darker with my pencil than I would do, but this is just so that you can see the lettering, okay? So we've gotten our line straight across. Now, next thing, here we go. So what I'm going to do with you now, boys, is, I'm going to pause it a second. So now, lads, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to sketch what we call the skeleton of the lettering out really lightly in each grid box. And the most important thing to remember, boys, when you're doing your lettering, and the whole reason we draw this grid out, is that your letters must fill the grid from top to bottom and also in terms of the width, okay? So I'm going to sketch out very roughly with my pencil the real rough sketch of each letter from top to bottom, okay? And I've done it below here because I'm going to show you how to use this in a minute. So I do that really, really lightly with my pencil first off, okay? And I am going to do that kind of quickly, and then I'll come back and show you where we go from there. What, you know, your first skeleton of lettering should look like. And I've done it in marker so that you can see it really clearly, and I've marked my tram line in pink. What you should do is you should do it really lightly in pencil, so that it's you'll be able to rub it out after, or if you make a mistake, you won't have a problem. What I want to really quickly show you up here is just a couple of the things of the things I don't want you to do, and some of the really common mistakes that I see all the time when we're doing lettering. So just, and I'm going to do it again in a black marker so you can see, but absolutely do not do your lettering in marker, boys, at all. Always completely in pencil, because you're going to be rubbing a lot of this stuff out once you start coloring. So number one, I mean, here's our grid that we've spent a lot of time drawing, and we've got our gap in between each letter. So number one, this is very common. Okay, we're not filling the box, right? So not filling the top, not filling the bottom. And even if you feel you're doing all your letters here around the same size, there's no point drawing this grid unless you use every single part of it. Again, this, if we could do the same thing, maybe then we're going to go lowercase, okay, which is fine. If you're going to do a lowercase lettering, you need to commit to that the whole way through. But often I'll see a student do this and then maybe this after. And that doesn't work either. So you need to make sure that you keep everything consistent, okay? Another very common mistake I see is really, we can have some really nice lettering maybe, and for some reason students often leave a gap here at the side, if you can see that, a gap in between the box, there's the gap for the lettering, but then they leave another gap. I see that very, very often. I don't know why, but just to restate, make sure you're filling your letters completely. Again, you know, if you're using, when you're doing something like the E, okay, we're filling the whole box, yeah. But it's important that there's some balance there. So as you can see, I'm using the tram line for the center point of my lettering. And also when I do each one of these stems of the letters, they're going to be all the same width. Okay. And let me just see, there's one more thing. Yeah, and then of course the other thing not to do is not to forget about your gap in between. So don't fill that gap in, or don't use that gap for your example for your E, which sometimes happens too. Sometimes these things just happen because we lose concentration, okay? So it's a kind of important with lettering, you keep your head screwed on and just keep concentrating when you're doing it, okay, lads? So you can see there the skeleton. This is the first basis. So the first thing I'm going to do before I do my my block lettering. One letter, as you can see, each letter is filling each box completely. And the one letter that isn't filling the box completely is the S. And I'll show you why I've done that in just a minute, okay? So just to start off then, lads, once you've done that really lightly in pencil, you can again just really lightly sketch it in, okay? With your pencil, okay? You don't have to do too much measuring or anything here, especially for these letters here. Use your eye, use your own judgment to try and see, am I keeping this all the same width? Is everything the same width the whole way through? Now, for a letter like the N, I do think you're probably as well just to get a ruler straight through to it. And I would even, to be honest with you myself, be a little bit finicky about this. I probably will go half a centimeter here and here for the width of each, for all of the trunks of the letters. And I'll just what I would do with that. Okay. And then here, I'm just going to look here. Now I'm going to turn this. So I'm going to take from here. I'm going to look using my eye. That's not parallel. I hope you can see that, guys. Or if I did it up here, it might be better. So what I would do is I would make sure that my line, my ruler is parallel to this slanty line here, this diagonal line. Okay. So I just can do that using my eye. All right. And I'm actually just going to go from there. I'm looking at it. And that gives us a lovely neat N. I'll turn it around again. It's very important, boys, to twist and move around this page so that you can get at it with the ruler. Do that again, and you can see I've just moved around for myself because I've moved around for myself because I want to be able to get it at this in the straightest way possible. Okay, easiest way possible. Straighten that line up there. I didn't do that with a ruler before. Okay, perfect. Right. So boys, a trickish one is the E. Okay. Again, I will be a little bit into the measuring when it comes to something like the E. Okay, so here I'm doing an E here, guys, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure myself about half a centimetre, because that's what I've been using. Half a centimetre here. And for the middle one, it's a bit tricky. And somewhere in the middle here, half a centimetre here. And half a centimetre here. Okay. And that's going to be the top of my E. But while I'm doing that, you see I've got a T over there. I'm going to just do that with the T as well. And of course, I'll use a half a centimetre as well on this side. To make sure that that works. Okay. Okay, see that? I hope you can see that, guys. Okay, so you can see my E there. I just measured half, 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 and a half for the width here. Okay, and the rest we've all done before. The one I'm going to come to now is the X. Okay, and what I've done is I've started the outside of that S kind of lower down, and there's a reason for that. An S can be very tricky, and we're often I'm asked by students how to do an S. This is what I figured out might be the easiest way to do it. So keep this inside line here becomes the outside line. And then your top line here starts with the outside line and it's coming inside like this. So I'm just sketching. You see how sketchy and rough that is? Sketching away. Okay? I want you to do is to do your grid and then to lightly sketch in your letters in pencil, as I've done in this bottom one down here. And then after this stage, now you can have a little bit of fun. The kind of the technical part is over, the tricky part is over. So think about how you might alter some of this lettering to show what your interpretation of the word is, connections. So, you know, for some of you, it may be you could do something like using arrows. And, you know, I'm going to keep my lettering here underneath, okay? But you know, it's like kind of a skeleton, a base to work over. But I just really roughly just threw a few ideas together there for lettering for the connections. And you know, each letter is done in a completely different way, but you may wish to do all your lettering the same. You may wish to just stick to one theme. You may wish to stick to several themes. I looked at the idea of connections in terms of road markings, like a roundabout or like the markings on the road. Then what I kind of did at the end is mostly to do with sport, because that's the other, I think, really good theme when it comes to connections. And so some boxing, skittles from bowling. There's a guy for the ball, weightlifting, golf, football, hurling, and basketball. But again, you can kind of come up with whatever you want. You can keep it quite plain and simple with a few little hints around it, or you can try and do the emotive lettering. You could do all of your lettering just with one theme, or you could try something different with every single one. But I hope this is a helpful video. Okay, bye bye.